So, but we'll see how this plays out. At least there's a lot of enthusiasm, and now we've got a big log jam at the theaters. We don't have enough theaters again because now there's too many 3D films. So now the theater owners have to step up yet again to a second wave. We have another interesting phenomenon, which is the consumer electronics companies are releasing 3D screens to the home. So you've got Samsung and Panasonic and LG and Sony all making big 40, 50, 60-inch plasma and LED screens that can show 3D. Well, that's great, except there's nothing to show on them. If you take all the 3D movies together and show them back to back in a marathon session, you'll have 25 hours of programming. What are you going to do for the rest of your life with that spanking new 3D screen? So they've managed to create I think something very interesting, which is a content gap. It's exactly the opposite of what we had in theaters. In theaters, we had more movies than we had screens for. Now we're going to have these 4, 5, 6 million TV sets shipped this year that can show 3D and not enough stuff to run on them. So what will happen, I predict, is that the networks and satellite and cable companies will jump in and they'll start figuring out ways to deliver 3D to the home. And there's a very simple way to do it. Basically, anybody that can carry an HD signal to the home can send a 3D signal to one of these sets, and it'll decode it. So this is going to happen very fast. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen, a lot of funding models that have to be put in place, and we've got to take our existing stereoscopic or 3D camera infrastructure from the sort of 50 cameras that exist right now up to thousands of cameras to be able to shoot sporting events and live entertainment, music, concerts, scripted entertainment for television. But this is all going to be coming at you pretty fast. Now, what I can't predict is what effect that will have on the movie-going experience. Because I think one of the most fascinating things that came out of Avatar and some of the other 3D films is that people are going back to the cinema all over the world after years of this kind of passionate, affair with getting smaller and smaller, showing your films on smaller and smaller devices, laptops and even, iPhones, because you want the immediacy, you want the quick access, and people are willing to look at bootlegs and download, bootleg downloads, pirated video, all this stuff. People have said, enough. The pendulum is swinging the other direction. They want to go back to that big, immersive, widescreen experience with a room full of people. There's something about the vibe of being in an audience and sharing something with an audience, something that's up on the screen that's mesmerizing and hypnotic. They want that experience again. I'm not saying that one is going to replace the other. I think that people are now saying, I can choose between these two different experiences, and I understand the difference. And maybe I do want it quick so that Monday morning I know what this movie's all about. Or maybe, 6 weeks into the run, I'm going to wait in line to go see it in IMAX 3D. We're seeing both of those things happening simultaneously. Because interestingly enough, even though Avatar is the highest grossing film in history, it's also the most pirated film in history. It's true, but the pirating hasn't really hurt the box office. So people are making this clear distinction, and I think that's really wonderful because it's kind of reinstating cinema back to the stature that it should have always had. One last subject. 3D is not the main reason for the success of Avatar, I believe. I believe that Avatar works because it's a story that works, because it's characters that work, that are performed by really, really talented actors who did amazing performances and have touched the hearts of people around the world. And because all those artists who designed that world of Pandora did such a beautiful job of bringing those creatures to life. And, it's the emotions of the film. It's also the themes of the film. People are responding to the themes, dare I say even the spirituality of the film. And I've gotten so much feedback from all over the world of people whose hearts were touched by the movie. None of that has anything to do with 3D. None of that has anything to do with the technology. That's good old-fashioned storytelling, good old-fashioned acting, and having something to say. And I believe, since it's such a personal film for me, based on all my feelings when I was a teenager about how we treat our planet and the nature of war. You know, when I was a teenager in the '60s, it was you know, we were in the Vietnam War, and it was the start of the environmental movement. These are themes that I've had throughout my life. I wasn't making a movie that was just responding to a trend from the previous season of successful films. I was telling a story from the heart. And I think all films, no matter what the scale, from the smallest independent to the biggest film, should be a personal film. That's how I think films should be made. And we need to speak, as artists, we need to speak with our own personal passion, not what we think the audience wants, but what we would want to see up on the screen. And along in that same vein, you know, the environmental theme of the film has touched people around the world. And I have no real illusions about the power of an entertainment movie to really change things. But I do think that what we've found from the feedback coming back to us is that Avatar is affecting people around the world. And so, you know, I feel that I almost have not only an opportunity but a duty to follow up with that and try to have Avatar be as helpful and constructive as it can be in terms of raising consciousness about the changes that we have to make in our society to protect our mother planet. And, you know, we've gotten groups from the Amazon, from Ecuador and Peru, and from right here in India, in Orissa State, where indigenous tribal people are being displaced by mining interests and so on. And it's happening all around the world. And we get these calls and emails and letters flooding in from people who say, that's my reality. That's really happening. And it's interesting to see how this film is being seen through the lens of different people's reality around the planet. And it's really exciting for me to see the power that a film truly can have. And so I would just conclude by saying that technology, if you think of it like a wave, it's a wave that as a filmmaker you can surf it. When you surf that wave, you'll pick up tremendous speed and power. And if you don't, it's going to break over you, crash down on your head, and leave you behind. But the technology is not the most important thing. It's the story, it's the characters, it's the heart and soul of the movie that's the most important thing. And I would say movies are made from the heart. They're not made by computers. Thank you. Now we can